Okay, so we're gonna keep letting people in, if I can remember to do that while I'm talking, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to the Homeschooling Veteran Dads Panel Discussion. I'm so excited that we have these veteran dads here today. They are so amazing. All of them I've known for a really, really, really long time. So I'm super excited for you to hear from them because they are the best. And they are going to just teach from their experience, and they have all different size makeups of family and backgrounds. So, and they use different kinds of homeschooling techniques and I'm just super excited to hear from them. So my name is Cami. I am part of the Freedom Scholar. My husband Eric, who's also on, is part of Freedom Scholar as well. And we are super excited to be able to, it just started off as a blog because I love freedom and sharing freedom with people. But we are super excited that we get to help serve people now in homeschooling and distance learning and help mentor people into making their situation better in a really tough situation right now. So I'll tell you more about that later, but just know that we're just out to add value and making sure that you can get something today, at least one thing. You'll probably get a lot more to just apply right away in your home. So before we spend much more time, let me check the participants here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let these guys introduce themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with Justin. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Tom. I like that. The background questions I think you had us go over basically were that how many kids and work and stuff. So I've got 4 kids. My oldest is 14, and then 11, and then 9, and then 7. And they're all boys except for the 9-year-old girl. So that's my spread of children. And my wife does most of the homeschooling and is a stay-at-home mom. And I work in the electrical contracting industry in management. But my background is actually in recreation. I did that for about 25 years. Prior to that, I was a substitute teacher. And prior to that, I did a master's degree in conservation and a bachelor's in environmental studies. So just a lot of really weird different backgrounds that don't connect too well. And also I was a public school, kid from Vallejo going all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. So I think that pretty much covers the background, right, Cami? That's what you were looking for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And you know what I really love about Justin said that all his backgrounds don't really relate, but they do if you know Justin, because
Right.
they do relate to who he is because he's so flexible and he's adaptable. And trust me, his leadership skills apply to everything, and he's a major leadership educator for hundreds of people. So I'm really excited that we get to hear from him today. And I've also known him since I was like 15. So, and he met his wife because of me. So Tom, you're already up. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself too?
All right, so my name's Tom Hines. I live in the Sacramento area. Let's see, background. I have over 20 years of customer service experience, most of that directly in call center work. And currently I'm doing loan signing notary work and running, when there isn't a worldwide pandemic, running a wedding DJ business. So that's been interesting lately. I'm blessed though to have something else I was doing in addition to it with the notary work, because with rates as they are, I've been able to still have lots of work, and I haven't been affected, even though all my colleagues who are full-time just wedding DJs are trying to figure it out. We have 5 children. So there's 2 girls and 3 boys. We have a 17-year-old senior. This is her senior year. Almost 15-year-old boy, a 10-year-old girl, a 5-year-old boy who's almost 6, but he's just starting kindergarten, and a 4-year-old. So he's just, hangs out and disrupts everything. So it's awesome. And my wife, Ruth, is primarily doing that. And this is our 8th year homeschooling. So we did start off homeschooling, but this is our 8th year homeschooling. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about that thought process later, but yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And Tom is definitely a jack of all trades too. And boy, you have to sure wrangle some leadership skills for customer service for a power company.
Yep.
That is for sure. Awesome. So we're up to Eric Wanis. I'm super excited because he has never been on one of our Zooms before, and you guys haven't been able to hear from him.
Yeah.
So I really want you to be able to hear from the whole like other half of what we're doing and how we actually run things and get things done, because I definitely couldn't do it by myself.
Yeah, this has been an interesting kind of transition for us because I've gone into distance learning. So I'm on these calls all the time. But like I said, I haven't been on one of these yet. So I'm excited to come on tonight and kind of give the dad's angle on this, especially as like the other end of the Freedom Scholar. And so I've always had a history in education. Generationally, my grandfather was a professor. My dad was a teacher. They say that education often runs in families, and it certainly did in mine. It's kind of like a calling. I mean, you do it because you're drawn to it. It's certainly not for the money. And so I'm in public school teaching. I've taught in public schools for over 20 years. I've done all levels from elementary to high school, and currently teaching at a middle school. I've been at the middle school in Sonoma for, I think it's 13 years now. And I teach Lego robotics and STEM, which are super fun electives. And then I teach ELD, where my students, most of them are Spanish speakers, and I'm trying to help them with their academic English. Let's see what else I want to make sure. Oh, we have one son. I guess I should talk about that. And we have a 12-year-old, Kenyon, and he's always been homeschooled, so he doesn't know any different. And a lot of times I'll get a, like, wow, you're a public school teacher and you have a homeschool son, and yes. And did you want us to talk about why we homeschool, or is that's supposed to be like the next question?
We'll do that in a minute.
I think we were going to get to that later. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I'll definitely give you my answer to that. Why do you homeschool when you have all this public school experience? I guess that's pretty much for my experience. I'll kind of stop with that.
Yeah, so if you didn't know already, if you're new to the Freedom Scholar, both Eric and I are credentialed teachers. I taught high school English, and I stopped teaching when Kenyon was born. He's not 12 yet, man. He's got 4 months.
Okay, I keep making him older.
But, and Eric's been teaching the whole time. He's taught both high school and middle school, and he has a large background. So if you need help, because we do have this mentoring service, he is the like go-to guy for tech and STEM and Lego robotic fanciness and like all these things. And I'm like, go ahead. I don't know what you're doing. But he's really good at all that stuff. So, so Justin, did you have one more thing you wanted to add?
No, that covered it. I'm ready.
Okay, I saw your hand up, so I didn't know. Okay, all right. So I think we're going to go ahead and jump into the questions. I'm going to share my screen here. I have them already up for you on the screen. Whoa. And okay, so just a second. I just covered up my forward arrow.
Hey, Cami, while you're setting that up, I wanted to make sure that no one thought that Eric and Tom and I were military veterans, but we're homeschool veterans. The wording of that might, cause a little confusion, but just to make sure that everyone's clear on that.
Good clarification. I like that. Yes, for sure. Veterans of homeschooling.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with, oh, that's the end. So the questions, for the dads. Let's see. Okay, so why do you homeschool? What started you in homeschooling? What made you and your spouse make that decision together? Who's like to start that out?
I don't mind starting. I'm Roderick. I didn't really prepare an answer or anything, but we our child is in our oldest child is in first grade right now, and so in kindergarten we had a decent experience, but it wasn't everything we kind of hoped for when we moved to the area for the schools. And then the whole like shelter in place happened, and it was quite a bit less than par experience. So with me working from home and my wife staying with the kids anyway, it kind of made sense to look into homeschooling, and she has just been killing it. Like she's wonderful at it. She's done all the research. I'm pretty sure she knows everything she needs to know to be successful at this. So it just kind of made sense for us and our family.
Awesome. Well, welcome to homeschooling. You are going to find that these three dads here have a lot of information for you. So I'm super excited that you get to hear from them today. Justin, why don't you go ahead and start us out with that?
Yeah, sure. Samantha and I never wanted to homeschool. That's for sure. She didn't want to, especially, and I was the main breadwinner, so I was going to be working. That was going to be her job. But what I noticed as a substitute teacher, going to teach in all the same schools that I went to as a kid, where I felt like I got a great education in the Vallejo public school system, were not the same schools that I was substituting in. And so it was a completely different environment. There was a lot of chaos. And I'd say it's just from a lack of enforcement of rules, lack of discipline, just a lack of cohesiveness altogether. And don't get me wrong, there were still some great teachers that I came across in that process, but the environment itself was not one that I wanted to put my kids in. And so luckily all that happened before our kids were of the age of attending school. And so we had some time to research it, and it gave us a chance to plug into some of the folks in our leadership community that were already homeschooling, and then figure out how to develop our own curriculum and go from there. And so that was really the essence of it.
Yeah, I know that one of the reasons why we started homeschooling was because you guys started homeschooling, and we started looking into it too. So, because we've known you guys for so long, so I am super blessed that you guys already started that before us.
And I'd like to, I was going to say, could I piggyback on
go ahead.
What said, and then we can go to Tom, because it's kind of a similar thing. Cammie and I both, when we started thinking about this, when it was kind of before Kenyon was be born, and we were talking about what we were going to do, and with schooling and everything, and we felt like as educators we knew too much. We knew the good things that public education does, but we also knew where public education was sorely lacking. And so in thinking about what we were going to do, we just felt like the benefits of homeschooling way outweighed anything that public school could offer, because we knew both sides. And I feel like we made the best decision possible, because what I see as in the 20 years, education has so declined. It's so sad. And now going into the distance learning, it's even worse. And so like Roderick was saying, the distance learning, you can't take something that was made for adults to talk online and try to teach children through that. I mean, it just doesn't work. It's not an educational medium. And the longer this goes, the further kids get behind. So I'm just so glad we started doing homeschooling when we did. And I was just talking with another teacher today about the difference I see in Kenyon compared to the kids I see in school. They're exactly the same age now. Before I was comparing an elementary school kid to middle school kids. Now that he would be in 6th grade. And I just feel like we made such the right decision.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And that's what I tell people when they always ask me, why do you homeschool? It's because I know. Because I know the back end, and I know the front end, and I see the results, and that wasn't what we wanted for our child. And it's pretty amazing the difference that you see in Tom's kids, Tom and Ruth's kids, and Justin and Samantha's kids as well. It's the results are long-term, are such better relationships and a whole person, which is really amazing. So go, Tom, why don't you tell us why you guys decided to homeschool?
Okay, cool. Variety of reasons. And I have to say, I really appreciate both Justin's and Eric's reasoning, because it kind of, those weren't my reasons because I wasn't a public education teacher. I did do a large stint of time doing adult education. And let me just tell you, adults aren't any better. Just saying. I'm just saying. They're a little better, but not much. So we had a variety of reasons. So first of all, I'm going to put in the chat, a book by link to Amazon for a book called Thomas Jefferson Education. I was introduced to this book probably when my daughter, who's now a senior, was probably second grade, may have even been while she was in first grade, but for sure by the time she was in second grade. And I read this book, and it's and I was like, hey honey, you need to read this book, right? And it kind of pulled in all my own personal experiences, having gone to public school, and laid them out on the table, right? And real quick here, and this is way more deep than this, but it really talks about the difference between conveyor belt type learning versus learning for the sake of learning and really becoming a whole person, right? And I kind of felt like I was on that conveyor belt myself in the Sacramento school district. As I look back on my own experience, I felt like there was a lot of instances where, because of the conveyor belt style, I was losing out on what I needed to be able to be successful in school and really set my mind frame up for a better life, right? So it's been a lot of overcoming thought processes and mindset for myself, right? Having gone through the public school process, which is different. Other things that led to this, right? We had my daughter in one school, they weren't allowed to run on the playground. You're like, really? You can't be a kid during lunch, right? We went to a different school the next year. We didn't really have those issues, but just all kinds of things, right? We had a family trip scheduled to go to Yosemite. It was with all my wife's family. So it was my extended family, all her sisters and brothers and her mom and everything. And the only time it was going to work for everybody was we still had, by the time we were done with the trip, we'd have 3 weeks left of school. No big deal. We're like, we'll pull our kids out. I call up and say, hey, we need to pull our kids out of school for the week. And they start going, well, why? Well, we have a family trip. Well, that's not an excused absence. And I go, I don't care. I'm the parent. I'm excusing it, right? I'm calling you because I want them to be able to get their schoolwork still done. And a myriad of other things. And really, kind of like Justin and Eric were talking about, is the environment. I kind of realized around the time my daughter was in second and really in third grade, is my children, to become well-rounded individuals, did not have to be put in situations where they felt like they weren't supported. And I'm not coddling my children, right? But we literally had a teacher who was, sometimes in elementary school, the teachers would trade off for an hour once or twice a week. And so the class would go and hang out with this other teacher for something, right? And we literally had one of those teachers who was really caustic towards my daughter, right? And here she's like, third grade, are you kidding me? What is she going to do? Anyway, lots of myriad of reasons. Ultimately, it was that book, however, and it took us probably 2 years before we pulled the trigger. And just like Justin, I was the primary income earner. My wife was stay-home mom at the time. So it was really important that she was on board if we were going to make a change, because with my work schedule, she would have to be doing most of the work and the educational component. So that's kind of how we initiated start. And if you talk to Ruth, she has some slightly different things, but they're all kind of melded in together.
Sure, sure. And it sounds a lot like Roderick's story too. That's something that I think a lot of parents are doing right now is just taking matters, taking the quality of their education, their kids' education in their own hands. And I'm sure everyone who's gotten on this call that, has done that, because it's a leap of faith. It's a little overwhelming. And, it's a lot of overwhelming in a lot of cases. There's a lot of curriculum out there and to choose from. So why is it important for dads to be involved in homeschooling? Why should dads, even bother if they're not even around half the day? What's the deal? What do you guys think? Eric, you're unmuted already. Do you want to go ahead first?
Yeah. Well, I just, as an educator, I obviously want to be as involved as I can in my son's education. And I realized that between Cammie and I, yes, she does a majority of it. Like Tom was saying, I'm off teaching in a school somewhere all day, but I definitely wanted to be involved in my son's education. I'm a big believer in homeschooling and the proponents that Tom was talking about in the Thomas Jefferson education, because we follow a lot of that in the homeschooling that we do. But also I wanted to be that role model of someone who's always learning, a lifelong learner. And then there's certain areas that I love to do with Kenyon that I know I bring things like Cammie talked about. I love doing STEM and Lego robotics. And so Kenyon and I are able to experience that. It's an area that Cammie doesn't really have any training or knowledge in. It's something that I love, and I love doing with Kenyon, and I love sharing that with him. We make all sorts of things here. We made a catapult the other day. I brought home a Lego kind of engineering thing to do this weekend. And so it's just stuff I love to do with Kenyon. I want to be that example of a lifelong learner. And I think that's what makes, it kind of completes the picture when both parents can be a part of their child's education.
Definitely. And I feel that that fill in the gap part with you a lot too, because I don't, like we did that space summer camp thing, and there were some of the experiments in there. I'm like, yeah, that's not really my gig. Like, I don't really do that. And so it was nice to have you be able to do those kind of things. Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I have a really short answer for this one because I've got some other longer answers for the other questions. But what I wanted to say is really the most important reason to be involved is for example, right? So that your kids see that you're 100% supporting the mom, the main teacher of the homeschooling operation, because you're doing the same thing together and you're in sync with each other. And even if it's a subconscious thing that your kids pick up on, I think that's critical. So that's all I really wanted to say for that particular question.
Yeah, definitely. It's important homeschooling is a whole family unit. It's super necessary to be on board with everyone. So, and to run as a functional unit. So you can't have just somebody off, not participating, or at least not supporting. I know that Tom does a really good job with that with Ruth, and because that's the only reason why she's super amazing. I mean, she's super amazing. Let's just not lie, but she's more super amazing because Tom has her back. Tom, what do you think?
No, that's absolutely true. I remember, oh my gosh. So we read this book, right, that I mentioned earlier and linked in the chat. And yet, even still, when we finally made the leap, okay, we're homeschooling this year, right? My daughter's starting 4th grade. My son's going to 2nd grade. And we've got a 1-year-old at the time, right? And maybe almost 2. Anyway, so I remember having to constantly remind myself that homeschooling is not public schooling at home.
Oh.
Constantly remind myself of that. My early exposure to homeschooling as a parent were some very close friends of ours who started homeschooling right from the beginning, and they had a desk, and which is fine. I mean, if they had space to put a desk in for the kid, like a elementary school style desk, right? That's fine. So my brain but I never really dug in. Hey, why do you guys use a desk instead of just your table, right? But anyway, So I had to constantly remind myself that. And so I'd ask Ruth questions and she would say, well, I'm doing it this way. And I just always had to recheck my thinking. Why? And go back to the goal. Why am I doing this? Why did we decide to do it as a family? And as long as the effort was matching up with the overall goal, then I felt great about it, right? So I'm going to lead into number 3 here real quick, if that's okay. And that is Ruth does most of the homeschooling. And my role, I tell my kids, is I'm the principal. So disciplinary, right? Or back up the discipline that the teacher, Ruth, is doing, right? So it's, and then every once in a while, when necessary, just like my principal when I was a kid, to help with teaching and to jump in and do that. But I'm not setting the course for them. The kids are doing that with Ruth because I'm, again, out most of the day doing employment. So.
Yeah, I really love what you said about the not doing school at home. I saw that so much all over the Facebook groups that at the beginning of the year, people setting up, and I know it looks in the background like we have this whole school set up here. We never use it for that, which is interesting because it's all his school stuff. And I mean, we do reference it, and sometimes he does stuff up here if we're up here, but he generally wants to be where we are. So like he'll go all around the house, kitchen table, whatever, you know, and he'll do his stuff there. And doing school, I've done it, I tried it when we first started. Doing school at home is hard, and it hurts, and it's painful, and it's stressful for everyone, and no one wants to do it. And it does work for some like that schedule and the planning and all that. And but I would say that it's very rare that it really is better than you know, making a different plan and separating it out. And the reason being, the biggest reason is a principle. And I think the dads would agree. The principle is that you learn through life. Homeschooling is learning through life. It's not learning through your school hours and then you're done. It's learning
right.
through.
Yeah. Now, can I add, piggyback on that?
Please.
Yeah. So that's exactly right. So we look at education as happening all the time. Well, we use a charter school for some funding to help us with some outside classes and just to keep things fun when there were field trips allowed for field trips, whatever, right? But like if we're out in the summer visiting my wife's sister and we go to Mount St. Helens, we're like, okay, kids, write this down because in next month we're going to just count this as school. So, you know, and things like that. So schooling is happening all the time, and it includes cooking and chores and being part of a family, and it includes learning how to adapt to different personalities and different ages. And that's one of the things I think I learned most about how valuable homeschooling is versus public schooling. And we're not here, I'm not here to say public school, you should never do it. I just know what's right for my family and what I think is best for most people. But that is when it comes to my children's ability to get along with people. I mean, you guys have experienced it. My children can walk in the room, they've never met you before, and they can have a conversation with you as an adult just as easily as they could turn around and have a conversation with one of your children, and even a child that's younger than them, because they know how to socialize properly in every situation and not just with their peers or age group.
Absolutely. And Ruth absolutely kills the whole, I mean, she kills it with working the system with that charter school, man. I love it. She's awesome at that. Justin, I know you had a lot for this question, so let's, I know you were going to talk about doing outside of regular academic work. So let's hear about that.
Yeah, so obviously Samantha does most of the homeschooling. That's her gig. But my role specifically started out as helping with their writing. And so I would be the one who edited essays or helped them with writing skills, just because it was one of the areas that Samantha felt I was going to be better at doing. And so I would edit their essays and give them feedback and actually create writing assignments for them. And then about a year ago, well, a little over a year ago now, we had planned a trip to Maui. And so about 6 months prior to that, I came up with the idea that I was going to add a curriculum to our homeschooling that I was going to teach called Maui Mondays. So every Monday for about an hour, we would go through a specific lesson. And so there were a bunch of different things about Maui, whether it's the history or the geology or the biology or conservation status or the economy of Hawaii or, marine oceanography. I mean, we did a whole lesson on whales because we were going to go whale watching. And we did a bunch of different things like that because then we knew that we were going to go experience it. So I felt like it was going to prepare them for going out there and snorkeling with some sea turtles, so that they should know what the sea turtle is. And so then they could learn about what the biology of that sea turtle is, and then the conservation side of the sea turtle and the history of whaling and how that's affected the whales that they see today in the channel in between Maui and Lanai and stuff. And so that was really successful, and the kids loved it. And I used a lot of videos that I would just kind of put together on the fly. I would look on YouTube to find what I was looking for that would help describe what I wanted to talk about. So I had visual with my discussion and what I was talking about. And then I would create some assignments to go along with it. So a lot of times I would create an essay or a report for one of them to do that was specific to what I thought they were interested in. So if I saw something that they were like really jiving on, like my youngest was really into volcanoes, and Hawaii's all about volcanoes. So I had him start doing some things with volcanoes and create assignments based on that. And so that's mostly what I do. And then more recently, we also added woodworking, which is one of the things that has been taken out of a lot of schools. And so it's been nice to be able to actually do woodworking at my house with my sons and get them to learn some of the skills that they, at least in the school district where I'm at, they wouldn't be able to do woodworking. And that was my favorite class that I could go to in school. And so now they get to do wood turning, and my dad, who's a wood turner as well, got to help teach my kids how to do woodworking too. And now it's kind of translated into a little business for them. So we're using it to do entrepreneurial stuff because they make really high quality ink pens. And so it's really spawned a lot of different learning lessons. Like Tom was talking about, how you can just turn anything into a learning lesson if they're interested, right? And so they can, kind of dive down the rabbit hole on something that they latch onto and find some interest in. And then that led to video editing, because my son wanted to make videos on YouTube of his woodworking. And so I taught him how to video edit. And so I taught him how to use Final Cut Pro, and then how to upload those to YouTube. As soon as he turned, 13, he could have a YouTube account that I monitor, so that there's no funny business with any online social issues with YouTube. But that was just part of the learning process, because he wanted to do something productive with his woodworking and turn it into a digital arts program. And so it just kind of all spun from what they were interested in along the way. And that's been my role, is just kind of throw gasoline on whatever fire they start and help out Samantha in the areas that she feels like I'd be an expert at.
Absolutely. And your kids make some amazing things with woodworking. It is remarkable. And it's really cool that Luca, your oldest, has taught London, your second oldest, to do the woodworking too. So you got older kids teaching the younger kids stuff like that too. It's so awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it is cool to see him pass down the information, and they're working on the 7-year-old, but he's a little too young for my safety conscious mindset. So he does like sanding and things, safe stuff, no sharp objects or power tools.
And Marco probably want to wait a little longer, maybe.
Yeah, he's a little mischievous.
Eric, what is your answer to this question here?
Well, as I launch into this, can you hear me well? Because I dropped out for a minute there, and I want to make sure that I'm still coming through. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to keep this one kind of brief. But as I've already mentioned, Cami is definitely the lead here. I definitely see myself as filling in kind of the gaps, areas that I'm passionate about. Sometimes I also do math with Kenyon. Not that I'm super big on math, but I actually enjoy doing math with Kenyon. And so, kind of to fill in those areas where I think, maybe I bring a different perspective, or areas that I have a passion for, like I mentioned before. But when Cami mentioned about we tried, basically school at home, and I remember how difficult that was because I would come home and kind of like what Tom was saying, being kind of the principal, I would have to, there were literally days where Cami was almost in tears, Kenyon was almost in tears, and I had to kind of negotiate a lot of that stuff where we had to figure out how we were going to make this work when the trying to do school at home wasn't working. And so that was definitely a difficult time. So when we kind of switched to truly doing homeschooling and kind of changed our approach, that I don't have to be the principal anymore. Things go really well. Kenyon loves it. Cami loves it. And so anyways, just wanted to kind of piggyback on some of those topics we talked about. And here, there was a rough start to homeschooling until we kind of got it right here as well.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part about homeschooling is you can transition, you can change, you can throw everything out and start over. And that's what, there are seasons for everything and seasons in your life and your child's life, and everything's adjusted just like any other parenting methodology or principles would. Well, you hopefully keep your principles the same, but the methodology you might change. Let's go ahead and move on here. How do you make sure you guys are on the same page together? Let's see if we can, we're kind of getting low on time here. Maybe we can keep these a little short. What is like one thing that you guys just do that helps you stay on the same page? Tom, what do you think?
Well, over the years, I've learned to go, well, what does your mom say? Because if the kid's asking me something, can I do this or whatever? I'm like, well, have you talked to mom about that? Because she's already invested at the beginning of each, quarter or semester, however often she does. She's already invested time having conversations with these kids about outside of the basics that we're going to make sure they're always doing math and some sort of, learning English. We want to get those basic skills taken care of as well, that they're working towards whatever they wanted. If I come along and just say, oh yeah, whatever, and it still happens every once in a while, then I just disrupt everything, right? So it's I try not to be the disruption, even though I will absolutely be a disruption sometimes.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And you're a little mischievous too.
Can I kind of follow, unless Tom was going to go again?
Go ahead.
Tom, did you want to say something? Okay. I was going to say, I often defer to Cami as well. Like Kenyon will ask if he can do something and I'll be like, have you checked in with your mom? Cause I'm doing Zoom classes all day, and then he comes to see me and he wants to do something. And I'm like, you need to check in with your mom first, because I want to make sure you've got your schoolwork done. Mom has certain things she wants you to do, and we need to get those done first before, maybe he and I go do something that may not be school related. So I kind of with Tom there on that. But also there's times where Cami and I will specifically talk about, where are we going? I'll ask questions about, if there's things I'm concerned about. So a lot of communication between us. And then there's other times where she'll say, I would like you to do this with Kenyon, or that's space camp. She came to me like, I can't do this. And I'm like, I'm on it, So a lot of that communication to again, I can fill in those gaps, and the way we can do that well is just keeping that communication open and constantly talking with one another about, are we meeting Kenyon's needs as his teachers?
Yeah, that whole Mars robot lander thing that he had to build with paper clips and like cardboard, that was not my gig. That was not going to happen. Justin, how do you and Samantha work it out?
Well, my wife rocks, and so I can kind of just let her run the show. And then when she needs me to fill in on something that she's doing, she just tells me whatever the expectation was of the assignment or the project or the workbook or whatever that they're doing. And as soon as I know exactly what was proposed to the kids, then I can just jump in and help make sure that it gets done. And that's really the only time that we cross paths like that. Other than that, I'm coming in doing Maui Monday or whatever I'm doing, and that's my whole thing. And then she'll kind of log it and record it, and just so that there's a record of everything that we covered. But other than that, we don't really have to do too much crossing over like that. So that's my simple answer.
Yeah, nice. Divide and conquer, man. Works beautiful. Okay, so for those, and this especially happens, I think now a lot, and Roderick was talking about he was working from home now too, and a lot of people are. So if you're working from home or on flex hours or something, how has that changed your family's homeschooling, if at all? And how do you share the workspace, especially like when you know, because I know, Tom, you guys have a small house and you have, you know, kids in different rooms doing different things. How do you guys manage that? What do you do?
I think I might start because I was the one that actually suggested this question. And the last thing I thought I would ever be doing as a public school teacher is teaching from home. It's been a blessing in some ways because my 1.5 to 2 hour commutes, I can now reinvest here. So it's freed time up for me somewhat to be a little more involved now on the flex hours because I'm working here. And especially with what we did back in the distance learning in the spring, my hours were reduced greatly because we didn't start with a whole lot of hours online. So I got more involved in Kenyon's education as I was able to. So I started, you know, doing more on the math with him, doing those science things that we love to do. And so, you know, now it's like, my schedule's different. How can I get more involved? Because I have that time to spend now. And we were even spending time exercising as a family. And that was really great. I really enjoyed that because I had times during the day where I could do that. Or even now we get done earlier. Sometimes I'll do things with Kenyon and then I'll come back later in the evening and finish up my work. So I really like the idea where I can kind of work smart, you know, in a way that works for our family. And so but for us, the working in the same space has been a challenge because I needed a dedicated space. The way they allowed me to work at home was I had to have like a space where I could be undisturbed. So we had to figure out how can we share the one desktop computer when we're both trying to be on it. So, you know, it's kind of like I'm in there during the day when I have to do my classes, and then we share that space as we're able. So that's even been a challenge, even though there's only 3 of us in our family.
Tom, how do you guys work it out?
So for the last couple of years, my schedule has been very flexible. So there's times where I'm home during the day for hours. And so how do we work it out? I've just gotten better understanding of what time frame Ruth is scheduling the kids to do work. One thing I don't think has been mentioned here that I found is a huge benefit to homeschooling, and also was one of our reasons, I didn't mention this earlier, was we get as much like schooling done, like what you would expect your child to get done at 5 to 6 hours at public school, in as much time or barely more than the time it took to do homework beforehand. So that's a huge, right? So now it frees us up to learn all kinds of things, or, you know, learn life skills and things like that, you know. Just recently, our neighbors went out of town for a week, and they said, hey, can your kids feed our tortoise for us, right? Well, after the first like day of them being gone and the kids were now actually feeding the tortoise, guess what segment just popped up because we had the flexibility? Let's learn about tortoises. Well, what's the difference between a tortoise and a turtle, and all these things, right? And what kind of tortoise is that? And that's school, right? But I often have to remind my older kids that, and I got this from a very influential San Francisco, and I'm fond of, Adam Savage, and he said and of Mythbusters, and he said the difference between science and screwing around is writing it down. So my older kids, I'm always like, well, did you write it down? Well, if he didn't write it down, it didn't happen, right? So because how long does it take to write down, oh, I did this today, right? That doesn't take very much time. They just have to learn to do it, and they're older and they can figure it out. I don't know if I answered your question, but that was,
yeah, that's great. That's fine. It's totally funny. That's great. I love it. I love it. Justin, how do you guys work out the scheduling?
Yeah, so I've been working from home about 2 days a week just during the quarantine. But that hasn't really changed anything in our house because we don't start school till after Labor Day. So we haven't had that crossing of schedules. And that's one of the benefits of homeschooling. You can stop when you want. you just get it done when you get it done. Take a vacation and make that part of homeschooling, and then take time off when you need to at different times, just because you don't have to be on any government time frame. So for us, I don't think it's going to be a problem, because I would just use my desk in my room to be able to function, and the kids would be out at the kitchen table doing their schoolwork.
Yeah, you know, that's funny because, oh, I forgot what I was just gonna say, but learning through life, like just, you know, doing that. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So, we actually don't stop. We don't stop, take a summer break. I know you guys do, and I know Tom does, because they have the whole like scheduling thing with charter. But we don't stop. We just kind of go, and if life gets too busy, or like you know, like today we did some, but we didn't do as much as we have done the other days, because we had to run a bunch of errands, and I forgot my wallet, so I had to come back and then go. It's like this whole thing happened, so it just didn't, like, a lot of it didn't happen today. But you know, we go. That way we don't have a start and like okay, we're starting again. Oh, okay, this is how it was. It just works better for us. Not everybody does, but just that you have that option is really great. So we're gonna go ahead, and I do have a couple of questions from in the chat. And if you do want to add some questions, if you haven't already in the chat, go ahead, because we might take a couple minutes to do that at the end here. But just what advice, like, you know, what one thing would you tell homeschooling dads that would help them out right now? Justin, what do you think?
You know, I love this question, because I've seen a lot of posts from a lot of my friends on social media about how much struggle that they're having with their kid doing distance learning, and how they're contemplating homeschooling, and the whole, like, the tipping, just basically going into a mental breakdown practically, for the kids and the parents, right? It's both sides. And my best advice would be to just look into the possibility of homeschooling, and research it. You know, do a little research and dig in. If it's not something that you're ready to do from like jump into it and start your own curriculum, pull your kid out of everything kind of situation. One thing I would say that could help anybody, especially if you feel like your kid isn't getting anything from distance learning, just because of the environment, or the teacher just hasn't prepared, or they're just kind of in a bad situation, you know, with the whole distance learning setup, is to look into something that I had a subscription to called Masterclass. You've probably seen ads for it and stuff. I had a subscription as a gift. Somebody gifted me a year-long subscription to every course in Masterclass. And I did that for like 2 years. And I think I'm going to actually renew it now. I haven't renewed it recently, but I absolutely loved it, because I was able to learn things while I was running and gunning, just doing things. I could be listening to a masterclass while I was riding the ferry back and forth to San Francisco. I watched masterclasses on music. I watched them on film editing. I watched them on all kinds of things. And then I realized, I was like, you know what? My kids could start using these. There's one on magic tricks that one of my kids just absolutely loved. There's a Steph Curry one on basketball. You know, who doesn't want to learn basketball from Steph Curry, right? And so if you feel like you need to supplement what your kids are getting right now, because you feel like they're just not engaged, or they're getting behind, or you want to do something to just enrich their environment, add some electives in there, basically, get a subscription to Masterclass. I think it's like $180 for the year or something like that, which is really, I mean, some people pay that much for cable every month, so it's really not that bad. But you have access to everything. But the one piece of advice I would say is check to make sure it's age appropriate for your kid, because I know that some of them have some profanity mixed in there and stuff. And so just check to make sure that it's the right course for your kid, because I don't think they have really good labeling for that sort of thing. That's the one flaw with Masterclass. They don't have labeling for like whether it's kid appropriate or not kid appropriate or whatever. But I do know the Steph Curry one is great. So other than that, I can't vouch for exactly, you know, you're not going to get a language bomb thrown in there on you. But yeah, that's my best advice. If you're not ready to just jump into it full bore, at least talk to somebody who's doing it, pick their brain a little bit. You could ask Cammie and Eric. I know they give a lot of coaching advice on that, and they could kind of help you set something up to fit your particular needs and how you could structure it for your family.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you say that, because I was just reading even last night and yesterday, there were several posts in the distance learning groups that man, it's so hard right now. And not everybody's having struggle. You know, some people are doing okay, but there are a lot of parents that are really struggling, and a lot of kids that are struggling and refusing to get on the calls and things. And it just, the whole, like, what they're doing in the comments and everything, I'm like, wow, that's so much more work than homeschooling. So but yeah, if you have questions about that, or you're considering, or you're not sure, you know, contact us, you know, let us know, because we definitely help with that situation. We can help get you started, and with curriculum or whatnot, and just take a break, something, you know, withdrawing, all of those things. So what about Eric, you're unmuted. What's your advice?
Yeah, I just to piggyback on Justin, and especially coming from someone that's right in the thick of distance learning, the kids are way over this. The parents are not happy, and the teachers, we're going out of our mind. It's just so difficult to do the distance learning. So if there's a time you're even considering homeschooling, there's no better time than now. So yeah, if you're even considering it, and I would say try it. You don't have, if it doesn't work out for you long term, you can always go back to homeschooling, especially once the distance learning is done. Kind of reevaluate down the road. But yeah, I can't think of a better time to embark on homeschooling if you're considering it. If you're here, you're obviously interested on some level. I was just talking to a boy in my Lego robotics class today, and I can go in rooms and talk with kids privately, and he was telling me about how his mom is about to pull him out, and they're about to start homeschooling, and he was telling me what that was going to look like for them, and he was super excited about it. So yeah, I just can't say, if you're considering this, there's no better time than now.
Yeah. So, and if they're already homeschooling, Tom, what would you tell them?
If they're already homeschooling, I just keep going, really, in that aspect. But in addition to what's been said, I would say, and I kind of said it earlier, is you got to change your frame of thinking about what homeschool is. And I'm going to somewhat answer Michaela's question here. And that is because when I was a youth, my experience with homeschooling was called independent study at the time, right? And I had a couple of friends who did it in their family. That's the way their family did it because of their family dynamics. I actually tried it for a little bit and found that I was terrible at independent study. So it was not me. And then as I kind of got older and I watched other people and I started getting into my adult years and got married, and then watching other families that were homeschooling at the time, and I'm so grateful they did. But the challenges I saw were all the hyperactive kids that just couldn't sit still in Sunday school were all homeschool kids, right? Well, you all, the three of you know, my kids aren't like that. My kids can sit still, right? And that's because we set different expectations for our children than I think other people do. So, that was some of the concerns I had, is watching these other families and just how, this kid come into my Sunday school class and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're driving me insane. Later in life, I had the privilege of learning about personality temperaments. And that's another thing I would encourage is the other homeschool dads or parents is, don't leave learning up to your children. You need to become a better person. You need to become the teacher they deserve, not the teacher that went to school and got hired, because you're not doing that. You are their teacher, right? So there's wonderful resources that Cammie and Eric can lead you to on how you can become the right person. And for me, understanding personality temperaments was one of the biggest eye-opening components for me to be able to love homeschooling and look at my children differently, and their needs are different because they're individually different. They're not going to fit in a box,
Gosh, that is such a great piece of advice. I know for the in Thomas Jefferson Education, the book, one of the principles they talk about is inspire, not require. And that means that the general philosophy, the general principle would be that, in teaching too, you inspire you inspire through your example and through your own learning. And it is so we only have one kid, so we don't have like the older kid to teach the younger kid, and that sort of thing, get excited about what the older kid is doing. He gets excited about what I'm learning because I'm excited about what I'm learning, and that's really the truth. And if I'm not, then he's excited about some stuff, but he's super excited about learning because I love learning. And so it doesn't matter what you're learning about, I'm learning about social media and how to post videos, make graphics and things. And that's, I'm super excited about all this stuff. And so he gets excited. He wants to watch. Mommy, what do you have? What is that? And we talk about it. And that's super inspiring for him to want to learn about what he's into or what he needs to learn. I love it. So, okay. So we do have a question here on, did we get to Justin? We didn't. Yes, we did. Sorry.
You did. You got me.
Okay.
You can go on to those questions.
Any advice for a family split between one middle schooler homeschooling and a second grader distance learning? So one's distance learning, second grader, one's homeschooling, middle school.
Pull them out. Pull them out. That might not be the answer for your family.
Both kids choose their type of learning this year, but I feel like we're split in our learning experience because it's not being shared. What would you say to that? I know Eric might have a good response to that because he's doing the distance learning. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn because as an educator, I'm a big proponent. Of course, I'm dealing with middle schoolers, so they're older. But I'm a big proponent of student choice. Whenever I give things, I try to give them options. And so on one hand, I'm kind of like, well, you gave the kids the options and they picked the thing that they thought was best for them. But I think you also need to look as a parent and say, are they both learning, getting a quality education with what they're doing? So I think you need to kind of temper that with, is the distance learning really working for the second grader? And so, yeah, I want to be a proponent for homeschooling, but if you think that what they're getting in second grade is quality and it's something that's engaging and something that's working for them, I'd have to say maybe that's going to work for your family. So I think you need to kind of weigh it and kind of be their guide into what you think is the best fit for them. And yeah, it might be, that's going to be a very different experience when you've got such total polar opposites in terms of what's going on with education. So yeah, I don't know. I just never thought about, what would that look like with one kid doing it and one not? It's definitely an interesting question. So I think, you need to weigh maybe what's working best for your family and your kids.
Tom, what do you have to say about it?
Well, a couple things. We are the leader of our family, right? So this is a little bit backing off of what Eric was just saying. And I think we as parents, we need to look at what's going to work best for our family and our child, not just what they think works for them. And I'll give you a quick example. My senior, my oldest daughter, when she was entering high school, we kind of, at that point, because she's just really good at this whole learning on her own thing and taking it and running and reading and although she hates math, but I think she's better at it anyway. When she was going to high school, we gave her the option. She chose to stay with homeschooling because she felt that it gave her all the resources that met with her things that she wants. And she really loves theater, right? And so she's thinking that she's going to pursue a theater degree, which is awesome. I'm never going to get out of theater, apparently. No, just kidding. So then my oldest son, who's a sophomore this year, recently, I think even just last week, we had yet another round of him not doing what he can do, what we know he can do in his education, acting like, well, but I'm the one who chooses that. And I said, well, while we're giving you control of what you want to learn, we're going to push you where we think you need to do better. We're going to lead you a little further down the road than what you think you want to do because we can see further down that road.
Definitely, definitely. And there's well, I have more. I can say more about that, but Justin, go ahead. I could talk forever. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think that it would be tough, at least in our household, if one of them was distance learning and one of them was homeschooling or any, split. I think as a family, we all work better together when we're all on the same page. So for us, I think it just makes more sense to do it all together. And like Tom was saying, if you've got a better idea of where you think they would get their education, it might not be their choice, but you're going to have that better vision for them and see something that they can't see, especially at second grade level, or at any level really. A high schooler isn't necessarily going to choose the best option. They might choose the easiest option oftentimes. So I agree with Tom on that one. And Cami, I don't know if you wanted to go back slightly to Michaela's other question there about whether dads were against homeschooling initially and if they found a lack of support
Yeah, go ahead.
from homeschooling. We were against it initially. I should say I was against it initially because a lot of the kids I experienced growing up just didn't have the same social skills. But once I got around a group of people who were doing homeschooling and in what I thought was the right way, like, doing their research and really getting their kids, out and doing different things, I found that that's what won me over. So if you know some homeschooling folks like that, get your kids around them and see if that's the kind of people you want them to become. And then as far as finding other dads in that homeschool community, it all depends. I found some really great ones, but they're not as easy to find. They're just not as, we're just a thinner slice of the pie, right? And so it's a really hard demographic to hunt out, but when you find them, they're awesome folks. And so you really got to just kind of dig around and know that there's some different nature groups that we're part of and some different classes that we're part of. And so when you mix in enough circles, you end up finding different homeschooling groups that do outings and do vacations or do, whatever outdoor projects. And then you can find some great folks. I'm working on putting together some like homeschool adventures for dads with their kids and going and doing like backpacking trips. And so that's one of the things. You can learn a ton of stuff homeschooling backpacking, like lightning awareness. Yeah, I see it, Tom. We got stuck in a lightning storm the last time we went backpacking, and so we got to learn all about lightning. That's a life skill. So if you can find some other dads that want to do some outdoorsy stuff like that, I think that's a great way to connect to the homeschooling dads community, because it's more what they're into, and so you just gotta find them where they're at, I think is what it is. But they are out there, and it's a great community to tie into.
Yeah, and definitely looking for Facebook groups like the Freedom Scholar Homeschooling Distance Learning Discussion Group. You can connect with other families there, and you can, meet up, whatever or not. But once you meet up as a family, you see the kids, and you can get the dads together, kind of thing. It's a little trickier sometimes with work, but yeah, the field trip stuff is amazing, and we've met all kinds of amazing dads. And for the split distance learning and homeschooling, I would say to Will and Allison, I would just, if you're being stressed by it and it doesn't feel connected for you and work for you, just try to pick whatever you feel like is the most, will connect your family the most and unify your family, and then see if it works. If not, then you can always adjust from there. There's nothing in California that says, assuming that you are in California, nothing in California that says you can't go back or whatever you can do. So if you need help, let us know. mentor@thefreedomscholar.com, or I'm about to give you some other options here as well. So let me go ahead and move on. I know Mary had a question about doing distance learning with 3 different school districts and all over the place. And it's a little different, Mary, up there in Santa Rosa. I know they have smaller school districts, so it's a little crazy, and you also have special needs, some special needs issues as well. So we can talk more about that privately. I'd be happy to connect you with somebody I work with who, Irisha Williams, who's a special ed teacher, and she consults with parents like that. So let's get together on that. For right now, for sake of time here, we are already over time, but I'm just so excited about all you guys have to share, and we've already gotten comments about how amazing it is. So thank you guys for your time. I just wanted to show what we do at the Freedom Scholar. We mentor youth and adults. We can check in with kids. Like I said, we're well versed in working with kids in all different areas. We don't do like, we're not going to like, you know, manage their whole day, but you know, or tutor them for the whole day, but we can do homework accountability, we can set up project-based learning, we can talk to them about leadership and financial education, health and nutrition, writing, public speaking, STEM, all of those things. We've worked with parents on how to set up homeschooling and troubleshooting, and both of us have been in curriculum development before, so we know how to do that as well. That's one of my fun parts. I'm actually kind of a curriculum nerd. Like, I like to think about that kind of stuff. So anyways, if you give us a email, or you can contact us through Facebook on our Facebook page. I will post this slideshow in the details of the YouTube video where I'm going to post this video. Okay, so you will have access to watching this again, and you'll have access to the slideshow, and these links will be all live. But the Freedom Scholar is a Facebook page that you can go to, and there is lots of information, free info. And then we have the homeschooling and distance learning discussion group. We have so many members in there now, and it's going to be exciting. I'm going to do a live every single week, a live video on trainings and just different things that I see coming up that parents have questions about. We're going to do all of that stuff. And I know coming up, we have a live interview with Cameron Jones, who's another homeschooling dad that we weren't able to get on this call, but he is absolutely incredible, and I'm so excited for you guys to learn from him. Like I said, the YouTube channel has other videos on it as well that we've done, webinars, including preschool and kinder, and it also applies to first grade too. But we have a moms panel that we did a while back with two of these fabulous wives on here, Tom's wife and Justin's wife, and we had another couple moms on as well, all different backgrounds, super amazing, doing all different kinds of homeschooling. And then I did a webinar on how to homeschool in California. So if you don't know how to get started, what's it all about, definitely plug into that. So, and then we have the Freedom Scholar blog, which is something I started a year ago. There's blogs about freedom and homeschooling and different things on there, which is great. The website, it's thefreedomscholar.com. So anyways, we always do a 15-minute free consultation. Just contact us and just let us get to know you a little bit and how we can help you. That is our passion. I mean, Eric and I, we just love education. We love learning. We love families and bringing people together. And so definitely let us know how we can help you. I know these guys have helped us a lot today. I'm super excited for all the information that you guys gave us today. It is something that doesn't get talked about a lot. The dad's end of the bargain, man, is a big deal. And so I'm super appreciative of everything that you guys shared today, and that your transparency and just making sure that people feel more comfortable, especially on the dad's end. So with that, I am going to go ahead and end this call. Thank you guys, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Cami. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Hey.